The auditorium lights burned bright against the polished wooden stage, reflecting the intensity of an evening already loaded with tension. Cameras lined the back wall, red lights blinking as they streamed every second of the event, across multiple platforms. The panel was meant to be a discussion on democracy, global justice, and the future of leadership in turbulent times. On one side stood Stacey Abrams, the prominent American political figure with a reputation for her passionate speeches. On the other side sat Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the young military leader from Burkina Faso whose rise had stunned the international community. The hall was filled to capacity. Scholars, journalists, diplomats, and curious citizens had all come to witness this rare exchange. From the very beginning, the energy in the room had been charged. Abrams spoke with fire, her words slicing through the air like sharpened blades, challenging her audience to reimagine power and responsibility. Traoré, in contrast, carried himself with a calm, almost magnetic composure. He had said little so far, yet every time he leaned toward the microphone, the silence in the hall deepened, as though everyone knew something important was about to be revealed. For the first 30 minutes, the event unfolded smoothly, though with an undercurrent of ideological friction. Abrams emphasized the importance of Western democratic values and institutions, painting them as the foundation for progress. Traoré, however, reminded the audience of Africa's history, its struggles, its resilience, and the failures of imported systems that did not align with local realities. His words struck chords with those who longed for new narratives, and subtle discomfort for those invested in the status quo. The breaking point came unexpectedly. Abrams, mid-sentence, turned sharply toward Traoré. Her voice, which had moments earlier been composed and deliberate, suddenly surged into something raw and emotional. She pointed directly at him, her finger trembling not with weakness, but with sheer intensity. "Get out!" She shouted, the words reverberating across the hall. "If you cannot respect the values this platform stands for, then you don't belong here." Gasps rippled through the crowd. A few people shifted in their seats, unsure whether they had just witnessed a slip of temper or a calculated attack. Cameras zoomed in instantly, capturing every flicker of expression on Abrams's face, her furrowed brows, her tightened jaw, the fire in her eyes. But then, all eyes turned to Ibrahim Traoré. The young leader did not flinch. He did not rise in anger, nor did he lower his gaze in shame. Instead, he remained seated for a moment, almost as if allowing the silence to weigh heavily over the room. He lifted his hand slowly, brushing invisible dust from his uniform, and leaned toward the microphone. His voice, when it came, was steady, low, and unwavering, each word a carefully measured stone laid into the foundation of his response. "I will not get out," Traoré said. "I was invited here to speak the truth of my people. If truth makes this room uncomfortable, then it is not I who should leave. It is fear, arrogance, and the refusal to listen." The room froze. Abrams blinked rapidly, clearly taken aback by the composure in his tone. She opened her mouth to interrupt, but the weight of the moment silenced her. Traoré continued, his voice growing stronger. "You ask me to respect values," he said, eyes fixed on Abrams. "Yet what greater value exists than dignity? What greater principle than the right of a nation to stand on its own feet, without being lectured, manipulated, or dismissed? If respect means silence in the face of injustice, then I refuse to respect such a thing. I will not leave. My people have not left their land despite centuries of attempts to drive them away. I carry them with me here tonight, and I will speak for them." A murmur began in the crowd, rising like the first notes of a storm. Some nodded vigorously, others leaned forward with wide eyes. Even those skeptical of Traoré's politics could not deny the power of his words. He had turned Abrams's command on its head, reframing himself not as an intruder, but as the embodiment of resilience. Abrams's lips tightened. She tried to regain control, raising her voice again. "You cannot compare." But Traoré cut across gently, not with aggression, but with authority. "I compare because history demands it. Too many times have we been told to leave the room when the conversation turns inconvenient. Too many times have voices like mine been silenced because they did not echo the dominant narrative. But no more. We are not guests in humanity's future. We are co-builders of it. And no one has the right to push us out. A hush spread through the auditorium. Even the air seemed heavy, as if the building itself recognized the significance of the exchange. Abrams's shoulders sank slightly. For the first time that evening, she seemed uncertain, her usual confidence dented by the unflinching courage of the man seated across from her. Then, something remarkable happened. A section of the audience broke into applause, soft at first, then louder, until the entire hall resounded with clapping and cheers. The sound thundered against the walls, rolling over Abrams's silence like a wave. Camera flashes erupted, and the livestream comment sections across the world exploded with reactions. Traoré stood his ground. Did you see Abrams's face? She didn't expect that. This is history in the making. The moderator, visibly shaken, attempted to restore order. Please, ladies and gentlemen, let's allow the discussion to continue. But the momentum had shifted. The confrontation was no longer a moment to be brushed aside. It had become the defining highlight of the night. As the applause settled, Traoré leaned back in his chair, calm once more. He did not gloat, nor did he direct scorn toward Abrams. Instead, he folded, his hands neatly in his lap, his face composed but resolute. Abrams sat stiffly, staring into the audience, clearly battling with emotions she could not fully conceal. From that moment on, the conversation never returned to its original tone. Every question, every answer, every sidelong glance was framed by what had just occurred. Abrams spoke again, but her words carried less weight. Traoré, on the other hand, seemed to grow taller with each passing minute, his presence magnified by the courage he had displayed under pressure. By the end of the evening, the internet was ablaze. Clips of the exchange dominated social media platforms. Hashtags surged globally. Hashtag Traoré clapback. Hashtag silence the room. Hashtag leadership in action. Memes circulated within hours. But beneath the humor lay genuine admiration for a man who had chosen dignity over submission. Commentators debated the meaning of the confrontation. Some accused Abrams of overstepping, of letting personal emotion undermine her arguments. Others defended her passion but admitted she had underestimated Traoré's composure. Across Africa, young people celebrated the moment as a victory, not just for Traoré, but for every voice that had been dismissed or excluded in international forums. In Burkina Faso's capital, Ouagadougou, crowds gathered in public squares to watch the viral video on large screens. Cheers erupted each time Traoré delivered his crushing lines. For many, it was more than entertainment, it was validation, a symbol of a new generation unwilling to be silenced. And yet, in the quiet aftermath of the broadcast, the significance of the moment extended beyond politics. It became a lesson in human dignity. Abrams's outburst had been fueled by conviction, but conviction without restraint had exposed her vulnerability. Traoré's response, however, had revealed the power of calm strength, the kind that does not shout louder, but steadies the storm until it collapses on its own. The clip would be replayed millions of times in the days to come. Analysts would dissect every gesture, every pause, every shift in tone. But for those who were in the room that night, the memory would never fade. The sound of Abrams's voice cracking the silence with rage, and the sight of Traoré answering not with equal fury, but with unshakable resolve. A confrontation born of anger had transformed into a testament of self-control. In refusing to leave, Traoré had claimed more than a seat on stage. He had claimed a space in the hearts and minds of people across the world who now saw him not merely as a leader of a small nation, but as a global voice for dignity, courage, and unwavering truth.